Hello, my name is Angeliki Antoniou, and I will talk to you about temporality in cultural informatics. This is basically a review of different aspects of time in cultural heritage. Next slide. Now, the temporality of the cultural visits, it's something we will probably say, yes, temporality is there, but in the literature, we don't really see it. So it's not really there, at least explicitly. So we see fragments of it in different parts of the literature, but we don't see an explicit body of literature referring to temporal aspects of the cultural visits. When we work with cultural heritage informatics, we probably came across this Falkendirking model to describe the different levels of the experience, the user experience. So, of course, a cultural visit has a personal component, our interests, our personalities, what makes us interested in a particular type of visit. There's a socio-cultural context which we go with, and the social aspects of this visit. And there's definitely a physical context, and whatever this venue is, and the architecture of the place, the layout, everything. So when people use this very influential model, the Falkendirking model, they describe these three main components. But the model has one more thing, and this is time. So we seem to be forgetting time. And this is present in the model, but not many works discuss explicitly about time. And why do we forget time? Basically because it's always there and we take it for granted. So one aspect of time is to consider how long we stay at a museum, the duration of the visit. The shocking here information is that most people seem to stay around 20 minutes, though excluding queuing for tickets and coffee times. But the actual time, the visiting time, is around 20 minutes. Of course, that depends on our personalities or our interests, the museum size, the time of the day, if we're tired or not, the schedule we have, whether we are a returning visitor or not, and the group we visit with. But all in all, it seems that the average of a person's visit is around 20 minutes. So here I'll show you application from the National Gallery in London that took that aspect into account. So basically, when the people downloaded the app, it asked them to use this carousel profiler, which said, yes, I like this painting, no, I don't like this painting, and then ask them explicitly how much time they have, how long do they plan to spend in that museum. And but just by knowing their interests, what they're after, and the available time, it was able to propose a specific route inside the museum. And now here you see how we went from asking about the interests, to asking about the time, the available time, and then in the end proposing suggest a specific route and providing specific stories, respecting the time constraints people had. One aspect of time that we do see in the literature is what we call the before, during, and after, or rather the continuation of the visit. So this is the most common aspect of temporality we see in the literature. So we see that most museums or researchers plan for something to happen before the visits. This is normally done through a museum website. So people prepare their visit, opening times, ticket prices, different practicalities. And then they have an app or whatever happens inside the museum. And then a lot of people talk about the continuation of whatever happens to the visit after the museum visit. And this is normally now done through social media. So you have the before, during, and after. And we see in a lot of works that people discuss a bit about this continuation of the visit. Another example I want to give you about this continuation of the visit, it's from the Archaeological Museum of Tripolis. And here we designed games before the visit, and there were profiling games. So people were playing and we were making their profile. And during the visit, they had an app they could use, and that gave them stories. And then after the visit, we had the social media accounts, and then there were a lot of discussions around topics, relevant topics, and things they probably saw at the museum and things that interest them. And here you see some very vivid discussions that took place on the internet, on the social media. We also planned for games for people to play after their visit. And in order to play this museum escape game, which was a complex game, you could play for around an hour, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 different levels, a single player game. But you had to visit the museum before. So in order to play this, you could use knowledge you gained during your visit. So that was an activity plan for after the museum visit. And this was pretty much what we did with Temporality before COVID. And then COVID came and things changed dramatically and museums were closed. And then we see a significant increase in the literature about different ways to visit museums while they were closed. And now we face problems of terminology, and we started talking about hybrid, online, distant experiences. And we have strong indications that all these will continue after the pandemic. So here is a simple way to map this, and we have distance experience. Someone is home and they can access the museum content or the cultural content. This is normally done asynchronously. Then you have online visits, and that seems to happen synchronously, and that people from different locations, but at the same time, they can access different activities, cultural activities. You have hybrid experiences, and you have some people at the museum when other people are not at the museum, and together at the same time they can co-experience something. And then you have blended activities, which is people being at the museum and using different types of technology. And of course here the crucial thing is the synchronality of the visit, and that's another aspect of temporality. And the fourth dimension of time I want to talk about is the perceptions of time. We have the visitor perceptions of time. So basically, when someone hears that something is Roman or something is ancient Greek, how do they understand how far apart these two times are? How do we design something to make them understand this better, to grasp the aspects of time? So we need cognitive aids like timelines or providing progressive content. So these impose different requirements for design. But again, we have the perceptions of time that the institutions want to have. And here it's decisions, conscious decisions the institutions make about the aspects of time they want to show to their visitors. Now, what to include, and most importantly, what not to include, is a conscious decision that again influences content design and also the cognitive aids we'll give. Now, think, for example, the Acropolis. The Acropolis shows a snapshot in the 5th century BC. Now, what we see there is what they're trying to make is what Acropolis looked like in the 5th century BC. That's a conscious decision to show the monument, to show people the monument in that time. But of course, it could be a different choice to show the continuation and how the monument continued to evolve and evolved over time, Ottoman times, Byzantine times, all the way to today, and is still evolving. But the policy is to show a specific time. So this is a conscious decision made by institutions. And when the institutions want to show a specific place in time, a specific period, then us as designers, we need to respect this, understand this, and provide visitors the appropriate cognitive aids in order to understand the aspects of time the institution wants to show. Now, here I have the 4 different types of time, the different aspects of time we talked about, and one is the duration of the time, whether it's situation dependent or situation independent. The continuation aspects, what we call the before, the during, and the after. We have the synchronality aspects, whether the experience will be synchronous or asynchronous, and we have perceptions of time in the institutions and the visitors. And all these, they seem to heavily affect design of cultural informatics. And we need to consider those, to make our design more effective. Now, to conclude, I would like to talk about how we should plan for time. We should plan for these 30 minutes experience, 20 minutes, 30 minutes experience. This is what we tested in the Museum of Tripolis, and it seemed to work. People were happy, and from 20 minutes we managed to keep them there for 30 minutes, which is a significant increase. But you can't plan for much longer. 30 minutes, it's something realistic to plan for a 30 minutes experience. We need to choose the right exhibits. So when people have a limited amount of time, why should we digitize absolutely everything there is in the museum? We need to be selective. We need to go for the specific items and give the specific attention to these items. We can use different reflective questions to make people think more about the content and think more about the specific objects, provide links with today, engage with emotions, make people trigger different emotions. And we can use multiple modes, provide content in audio form or in visual form. And of course, you should not forget to make adaptation for the different times of the day. For example, if someone goes there first thing in the morning, visits a museum first thing in the morning, it's most likely they are relaxed, they have more energy than if they visit 1 hour before closing time, because then we know, especially with tourists, that they had a long day and this is the end of their visit. So we could adapt our content and our experiences to the time of the day. It's important to provide support before, during, and after, because that enhances this continuation of the visit. And of course, we need to respect individual preferences. Temporality in cultural visits is often overlooked, and because it's overlooked, is reflected in the design of cultural informatics. It is very much relevant to personal characteristics of the visitors. So if someone is really interested in the archaeological museum, they might want to stay more at the museum, and also they might be willing to play more with whatever we have designed for them, whatever application we give them. But if someone is not interested, then our design has to be different. It is a crucial element of the cultural experience, of what makes a good cultural experience, and definitely we need more research here done. So in order to make a meaningful experience, save resources and save time, we need to plan accordingly. And the purpose of this work was just to make us more conscious, about aspects of time and their importance in our design. And it works as a literature review to bring different works there and different elements of time. So thank you very much for your attention. I'm very sorry I couldn't be there with you today, but my good friend and colleague Tassos Theodoropoulos is there with you today, and he will be happy to answer any questions. But you can also contact me on my email. And I would like to thank very much Professor Tzvi Flick from the University of Haifa and Professor Alan Dix from the University of Swansea for providing me input. So thank you very much.